Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Booktube Chicks Book Club for May. Tonight, we are going to be discussing Neon Gods by Katee Robert. And, excuse me, this is the first in a modern day retelling of Persephone and Hades, like modern Olympic gods, if you will. If you've never been to one of our live shows before, basically how it works is we're going to do a synopsis and our initial thoughts of the book, and that is all going to be spoiler free. And then after that, we will go into spoiler discussion for about the next hour or so. So, who would like to start?
I can if you want. So this is part of a greater series, and all the books in the series are based on the Olympus gods mythology, Greek mythology, and in this story, Persephone is not wanting to be part of Olympus. She wants to not have anything to do with it. She kind of just wants to live her own life, but something happens where, I don't know, is that early enough in the book for me to say? I don't know what the back of the book says, but basically something happens that would keep her in Olympus, and she kind of runs away, and that's where she ends up meeting Hades, and things happen between them, and so really the entire book is just about how they're going to solve the problem of the thing that was trying to keep her in Olympus. As far as like, I am not rating this book. I think that's a first. I'm just not going to, because there's so much of it that's clearly not for me that it just does not feel fair for me to attach a rating to it. So I'm just not going to rate it.
I don't understand. Why?
because like, I was just laughing because I just saw that there's like a little blurb on the cover that says unspeakably hot. And I was laughing just because I don't relate to that at all. Like, I felt like the sex was like super contrived, and it's just not for me. It's not for me as a reader, and it just feels unfair to give it a rating knowing that I don't like that type of writing. I don't know. I liked the story part of it, but the sex scenes just don't do it for me.
Are you done?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I completely disagree with you, because for me, regardless of if I'm reading a book, I'm gonna rate it, regardless of whether it's a book that I normally read or enjoy, or whatever. But I did not know how to feel about this book. I still don't know how to feel about it, because I'm kind of like Desiree, where I really enjoy like the story part of the actual book. Sort of. It's like not my favorite plot in the world. However, I could get through it. But the sex, I mentioned this to Desiree yesterday, it felt like it was written by a teenager who just discovered he has a dick. That's how I feel about it. It was super like mechanical. Like there was no moment. There was no tension, I guess you could say. I understand that the author tried. She tried, and she can get a participation trophy. However, it was just bad. And I mentioned to Desiree yesterday that I have read a lot of fan fiction, and a lot of the fan fiction that I have read was the smutty kind. And some fan fiction writers, they are amazing, like so good. I have so many favorites, so good. And this author needs to learn from these fan fiction writers on how to write sex scenes, because she did not do it. No.
Wait. Okay, no, I'm gonna let Chloe go, and then I'll say what I'm gonna say.
So it just, like I said, this book is what I call it's a porny book with some plot. it was mainly a book that focuses primarily on the sex, and it's kind of like the author just wrote the sex scenes and she kind of threw in the story in the middle to kind of make it fit all together.
I don't feel that. I feel like there was enough story there. But
yeah, there was enough story, sure. But essentially, yeah, I don't think the sex scenes were that great, so I don't think the unbelievably hot description of this book was necessary. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm being very critical, but it's not like I've never read a sex scene before, but this was just not, it didn't feel very hot. Aside, that was the actual story part. I did enjoy it. Everything made sense to me, and I liked that the story was very linear. There was a beginning, middle, and end. And I'm kind of glad that the ending kind of had sort of like a happy ending. I don't know if there's going to be a sequel to this particular story. There is, right? There is a sequel to this particular story.
I don't know if it's to this particular story. I think it follows other characters in the world.
Okay. It's called like what, Electric Idol, I think is this next one.
Yeah.
But I did like that there was some beginning, middle, and the story was easy to follow. The characters, for the most part, not my favorite characters in the world, but they were enjoyable to read. At least some of the side characters I really enjoyed. But in the end, I ended up rating this book a 3-star. But really, I'm feeling generous, and it's honestly a placement rating because I don't know how to rate it. I don't think it was bad enough to be a 2-star, but I also don't think it was great enough to be a 3. So I may end up lowering it to a 2.5. Who knows? But right now it's a 3.
Well, I have the complete opposite opinion. Shocker. I really loved it, and I don't know why. Whether it was for the plot, whatever plot you could say that there is, or whatnot. I just really enjoyed it, and I went in with high expectations because of TikTok, but I ended up really enjoying it. And I think it might also help that I actually read another Katee Robert book at the beginning of the month, and it was also a retelling, but it was a an Aladdin retelling, and I really enjoyed that too. So I think I went in from the high of that book into this book. I gave it 5 stars. Whether it was worthy of those 5 stars or not, I don't know. But
well, it was to you. I
really,
mean, that's what matters.
Yes, exactly. And I was really happy with it. So I gave it 5 stars.
So the only thing that I was going to say that I wanted you to, to talk about your thoughts first was just that, and the evidence for me that this is really about preference, right? It's not me saying this was good or bad. That's why I don't want to attach a rating to it, because I don't think it's about good or bad. I just think it's about a preference. And when it's my preference, I don't feel like the author should be penalized just because my preference doesn't align with clearly what a lot of people prefer. And so that just seems unfair to me in my mind, which is why I don't want to rate it.
I mean, that's fair. Again, it is your rating, or you're choosing not to rate it. Other people obviously have different opinions, but yeah, but it makes sense. If it makes sense in your head, that's perfectly fine.
I will say we are going into spoilers now. Not that really matters if there's nobody watching, but still. So what should we talk
about? There was one thing that one thing that really bothered me, I think, about the story, and it was that the start of them being physical and having sex hinged on the idea of him defiling her so that Zeus wouldn't want her. And I really couldn't think of a more unromantic, unsexy reason to have sex with someone.
And that's why I said that, the story wasn't for me. I was trying to be nice. But,
Yeah. And it was like any other reason. I mean, I like she's working with a mythology, and I don't know the mythology of Persephone and Hades that well, but I think something along those lines does happen. Like, I don't know if they actually had an agreement or if he just does assault her and then Zeus doesn't want her, or whatever the hell that actually was in the original Greek mythology. But it could have been different. You could have changed it. Like, you could have just given them a better reason to want to have sex with each other. I don't know.
I was laughing because when I was reading it, and I took a screenshot of it, and I remember sending it to Desiree, where Persephone was like, "Tarnish me," and I'm just like dead the entire time.
I think what's really funny is that I was listening to the audiobook, and occasionally John would walk in and hear parts of it. And so, like, sometimes he would repeat something. Like, there was one time, I don't remember the exact wording. I wish I had highlighted it or whatever. But she says something, Persephone, she's like, "Oh, I've never wanted a man to touch me like that, but maybe I just didn't have the right man." And John just happened to overhear that, and he was like, "Do you have the right man in your life?" That's right. And I was just like, and he just kept making funny faces and repeating things, and it was just funny.
I will say
But
that I didn't want to listen to the audiobook. I had to because I was on a time crunch, and the audiobook was just not good. And when I remember I said it in like our text chat, I was like, whenever the female narrator does Hades' voice, he sounds like a demon.
it's not. Yes. For me, it wasn't even the female. It was mostly the guy. Like, I couldn't do it. Like, I'm sure I've mentioned before. I'm sure that in other audiobooks he's great because he does have this really deep, gravelly voice, and I feel like it is meant for doing narration of some kind. But it was so awkward listening to him, especially during the sex scenes. It was so awkward. I kept like getting secondhand embarrassment just listening to him. And yes, the female doing his voice during the sex scene was just as bad, but I was mainly like cringing every time his chapter started because I was like, oh my God, I hope there's no like sexy scene during him because I can't. And I try so hard not to skip over whenever he was reading because I didn't want to miss something important. But yeah, it was the narration during the sexy scenes was not good. Okay, one thing I will mention, and I mentioned it to Desiree. She never responded, but I mentioned it to Desiree how I think this author, or how I think the Zodiac author needs to take notes from this author, is the what consent actually means, because I even took a screenshot of this page. It's in the beginning where they're kind of like talking about their little arrangement, and he says, "When I said I didn't bargain for sex, that wasn't strictly true. Each encounter has an element of bargaining and negotiation. What I actually meant is I value consent, because consent, when you have no other choice, isn't consent." And that is so important. I love that sentence. Consent when you have no other choice is not consent. And that is something that the Zodiac Academy author does not know what that means, because she's like, a lot of people on TikTok were defending, and even in the reviews were defending like her lack of consent and like how the girls allowed them to do. I'm like, listen, they didn't have a choice. When you have no other choice, you don't have consent. And Hades was strict about it. I want your consent. If you have a choice not to do this, if you have no other choice, it's not consent. And I love that part. I literally want to put that in a frame and hang it somewhere because it's such a beautiful sentence. And yeah, but I just want to clarify that was like my favorite part in the whole book.
Now, I don't know if this is a thing in Greek mythology or if this was just something that the author kind of made up for her world, but are the gods positions? Like where anybody could be a Zeus or anybody could be a Hera, like anybody can be Demeter?
I think in this world it is a position, and I think it's like inherited, because multiple times throughout the book there was a mention that Hades' father was Hades and Zeus had killed his father, and that's how he became Hades. So I think it is kind of like a position, like a king or queen or whatever, and they get handed down.
Okay, but only in this story, not like in like
Oh,
actual.
I don't know about the actual. Aren't they immortals in the actual?
That's what I thought. That was my interpretation. I guess that would be a way to get around them being immortal, to not have to write them as immortals.
In the actual myths, I have absolutely no idea. I think that they're, yeah. But in here, it did seem like they're positions that gets handed down, and I don't know, or appointed. I'm not sure.
I wanted to pop over.
Oh, I was gonna say, because if Persephone had actually married Zeus, she was gonna be the new Hera, and apparently there were like 3 other Heras before her, and they all died. So yeah,
I think they were murdered. Didn't they say that he murdered them?
Supposedly, yeah. Yeah. So Meg's bookish rambling. She said the Greek god themselves are supposed to be immortal, so it's not passed down. So yeah. So in actual, yeah.
And I want to jump back to her first comment. I enjoyed the book overall, but the defiling thing was weird.
But I mean, it just goes to show you like how women are seen as possessions and not like human beings with their own autonomy.
And I find that word weird too, because generally defiling, like every time I've read it in like or seen it in like media or pop culture and stuff, defiling is like usually the girl is a virgin, and if someone takes her virginity, then she's defiled, whatever. If she's not married and has but in this case she wasn't a virgin to begin with. So is it just defiling because it's him, or it's because I agree that the defiling weird was just weird.
I think it's because it's him, because it's Hades, and it's like Zeus's enemy.
Yeah.
Can I just say, and this is kind of skipping all the way to the end, it was like way too easy for him to kill Zeus. Like I feel like
anybody actually cared about that part.
I feel like it should have been more complicated than that.
Yes. I'm telling you, I really think that she wrote the sex scenes and she kind of had an idea of what the overall plot was, and she kind of just fitted in, and she worked so hard on those sex scenes, which she should have worked harder, but it feels like she didn't. Case in point, killing Zeus, like the most powerful god, should not have been as easy as it was.
Yeah, I mean, whatever she did with writing this, it seems to work, since she's probably making like a ridiculous amount of money now just because of TikTok.
Oh, Meg said, well, to be fair, Demeter did help set it up. Yeah, it sounded like Demeter had a plan like all along.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm happy that occurred, because throughout the book, the sisters, like Persephone and her sisters, they mention how much their mother loved them. So then Persephone at one point like felt like not betrayed, but she thought it was weird that her mother would encourage this marriage to Zeus. And so I thought it was weird that she encouraged, but then Persephone, her sisters, goes, oh, she loves us so much. And then when this occurred where Demeter, she revealed her plans, I was like, okay, that makes so much sense to me, because like the two before were not making sense, where she loves her daughters but was forcing one of them to marry this dude. But
What did you guys think of Hermes and Dionysus just kind of like forcing themselves to be Hades' friends, or forcing Hades to be
I
their
love
friend?
them. They were probably my favorite characters in the book, and I wish I read more of it because I absolutely love them. Every time they're in a scene, it just, I feel like it made everything more lighthearted. I don't know, they were just fun characters to read about, and I love that they just inserted themselves into Hades' life, even though he had like, I you know, deep down I know he enjoyed their company, but you know, he kept saying that he didn't want them around or whatever. But you know, I really enjoyed them, and I love that they never, you know, took shit from him. It was just fun.
Follow me with this here. I think that Hades is just like a secret grumpy cinnamon roll.
In this story, yeah, I can see that.
And honestly, I would, going back to the Hermes and Dionysus thing, I want to read a whole book about just the two of them. Because I know the second book, I don't remember who it's about. I don't think it's about anybody we've met so far. And the third one, actually, I don't know about the third one either. There is a fourth one listed, but it doesn't have a like, it doesn't say who it's about yet, so it doesn't have a synopsis. But I saw, I think on her website, it was about Zeus and somebody I can't remember. And then I was confused for a second, like, oh wait, Zeus is dead. But now I'm wondering if maybe we're following like a son or whoever is stepping into the role now that he's dead. I guess we'll have to see what happens. I'll have to see what happens in the next two books.
What did you think of like the lower city as the way the environment was created, like the world building that she did for it?
I don't know if this was because I was like hurrying to get it done or what, but I didn't catch really a lot of setting description. It may have been there and I just didn't think about it. But what I did like was that there's almost, at least with Hades and the rest of these people, there's almost like a sense of community, in the sense where like he goes to all these like family owned, like owned for generations shops, restaurants, whatever, and that he really cares for his people, which is another reason why I'm like, he's a secret grumpy cinnamon roll.
This actually reminds me of A Court of Thorns and Roses, because oh wow, I just blanked on his name. Hold on. Do you remember his name, Chloe? The one that she ended up with?
Rhysand.
Right, yes. So he's like expected to be like the bad guy of the series, and he's like dark, broody. And when our main character goes visit his home, it's actually like this sense of community. It's a beautiful, you know, he actually takes care of his people. He cares about his people. So it honestly, like what happened with how Hades treated his people and how much he cared for them, and honestly reminded me of Rhysand from A Court of Thorns and Roses, because there was like this people's expectations of him and this like image of him, and it turns out it was a complete opposite. Same with Rhysand from the Court of Thorns and Roses series. Yeah, see, Meg, she just confirmed Hades' world, so to speak, reminds me a lot of the Night Court in ACOTAR. Exactly what I mentioned. Yeah, exactly.
So do you guys think you'll be picking up the second book at all? Like, are you going to give it a second chance like Zodiac Academy?
I have like mixed feelings about it because one, I think I'm just like a completionist at heart from being a gamer, and like the covers are friggin' gorgeous. And I just love those two worlds. Like I love like her villain series idea, like the idea of it. I love that, and I love that this is like retellings from Greek mythology. So like, I don't know. I might, because I imagine that, yeah, there's going to be more sex in the other books, but I'm thinking that maybe she'll write them a little differently in each one. Like you having read the villain book and this one, as far as like sex tropes, were they similar? Were they?
I think they were similar in the sense that the best way to describe Desperate Measures, at least in my opinion, is it kind of was like almost like a mafia romance. Like there's a whole like turf war thing, and the main character is Jasmine, and she is perceived as like this like innocent heiress. She wasn't like closeted, like hidden away as a child, but she was perceived to be a very innocent person, and she was hidden away. She wasn't allowed to have like friends and stuff like that. So that is definitely used as a trope for the sex scenes. But there's also like, without spoilers, there's like an evolution, if you will, that kind of changes by the end of it. So I would say, like, yes, it was somewhat similar, but it also wasn't at points. And I don't know if this is also going to be like a key point in some of these other books, because I was reading synopsises for the rest of the Wicked Villains series, and a lot of them are thruples. But I don't know if that's going to be like mirrored in any of
Cat's face.
She's like, excuse me? I don't know if that's going to be mirrored in any of the other, in like her other work, like in any.
I'm surprised you said thruples and not. Well, okay, maybe.
Well, that's how it was in the synopsis. So I was like, okay. I was more surprised at how many different books it's in, like in a row. But I mean, hey, whatever works.
Wait,
but I agree with Meg that I really like checking out retellings. So like, foundationally, that's kind of what my drive would be if I did pick up any of the other ones. But like, I don't want to. And again, this is like totally a personal thing, has nothing to do with what anybody else likes. I just don't want to be cringing throughout the whole book trying to tolerate the sex scenes. Like,
for me, I also don't know, but I think if the books focused more on building up the story as opposed to focusing so much on the sex, I would probably be more excited to continue on. But in this case in point, there was a lot more focus on the sex and building up the sex as opposed to building up the actual story. And I don't know. So I right now I want to say no, but I can't say that in the future I won't get that urge to maybe continue reading the rest of the series, because after I read the first book in the Zodiac series, I was like, I don't want to read any more of this trash. And then all of a sudden I decided I wanted to read the second book just to see, and then I ended up hating it anyways. But regardless, it possibly in the future I may want to be like, oh hey, maybe let's check it out and see.
I'm planning a video like much later on, and I know I talked to Desiree about this, about I want to read the Goodreads Award nominees for romance, like how Kayla does the horror ones. And I was looking back because I wanted to make my own predictions, and I was looking back on last year's, and Neon Gods was in the romance category. So I was really worried that I wasn't going to like this book, because she's had two books in the series are coming out this year. It was Electric Idol, and the next one's coming out. And I'm like, one of them is going to be on the awards list. Like, there's no way that it won't be on the awards list. So I was very worried that I wasn't going to like the first one, and I wasn't going to want to read the others, and then it was going to completely derail the whole video. But now I'm actually excited to read the rest of the books. I don't know how many books there will be in the series, but I'm very excited.
Where's the line? Like, how do they define the difference between romance and like erotica?
I don't know. And here, well, one, I think it depends on like the categories they have available. So because there's not an erotica category, at least I don't think there is, then it would lump in with romance. What I want to know is, because I saw that one of the Jennifer L. Armentrout books that's also really popular on TikTok, like one in the series was listed in romance last year. But where do you draw the line on that? Because that can also be fantasy. And that I was worried about because I was like, don't know if I'm going to be able to read a whole series. So I'm not sure where the line is.
Maybe it's just like the percentage of sex to plot. Like if it's like more sex than plot. I don't know.
I definitely think if it's not Electric Idol, I don't know when Wicked Beauty comes out because there's a cutoff time for a book to be published before it goes into the awards. So one of them, I just have the feeling it's going to be in there. I'd be shocked if it wasn't. What else do we want to talk about? I told myself I would take notes, and I don't think I took notes this time. How about this? Because I know I recommended. Oh, I was going to say I know I recommended at least the first Wicked Villains series or book to both of you. Are you open to trying other things by her?
By this author? By this author? Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, like other books by her.
I mean, yeah, I'm not going to write off a whole author just because I didn't like how she writes sex, but I'll be more hesitant to pick up her books, but no, I will definitely be open to reading another book by her.
I'm not going to say no just because, like, again, the idea of these retellings just sounds so exciting. But I imagine that the majority of her books probably follow a very similar formula. So.
Well, I know I have the second book in both the Wicked Villains and in the Olympus series on hold at the library. So I will read and report back.
Monster erotica.
I was just
monster erotica. That scares me. And so that's something I would, unless somebody tells me it is not what I think it is, then yes, I might read it.
Wait, but here's the thing, right? Like, let's pretend it is what we think it is, right? Sex with monsters. Like, hold on. Do you think that if it was written in a certain way, that you might still be willing to read it? Like not written like contrived, but what if like the person, I don't know, for me anyway, if the person like fell in love with the monster and there was a lot of tension, like,
hold on,
I think it could be written well.
The way you're talking about reminds me of Beauty and the Beast. Listen, I believe that an author grows as she writes more, so yes, I would be willing to read it if this is like her 7th book. I don't know, but you know.
What is the title of this Dragon Bride? Is that what it's called? Monster erotica? I have to look this up. Oh wait, no, I found it. Never mind. It's called A Deal with a Demon series. This cover is god awful. Let me see if I can show the cover.
How old is that? Like, is that one of her first things that she's written?
Oh. It came out last month.
Okay. Wait, is she traditionally published, or is she an indie author?
I think she's both. I think that the Wicked Villain series was indie, but I don't know about Neon Gods. This is a special edition cover. This one's better. Hold on.
Oh yeah, way better, yeah.
That's better.
The next one.
I would be willing to read it just because I'm curious now.
I mean, you read that COVID one.
Yeah, but I read it just because it was so dumb.
Absurd.
Exactly, absurd is the word.
I just added
She's
this
written
dragon
other
book
books, I
to my list, so we'll see. Actually, I'm gonna look and see if the library has it now.
Probably. I mean, I don't know. But yeah, I don't like writing off whole authors. Like, for example, when I read November 9, I didn't want to write, Colleen Hoover, and then I ended up reading another book by her, and I really enjoyed it. So, just because I didn't like the sex scene doesn't mean I won't like one of her future books. So I'm definitely open to reading another book by her.
Speaking of Colleen Hoover, what number are you in line for Verity? It's off topic, but I gotta know.
I'm close to the front.
You have to read it, though. You can't just let it expire. You have to read it.
Everybody keeps saying like how they're disturbed by the end, and I'm not sure I want to be disturbed. And I don't even know what that means. Like, what disturbed by what?
Here's the thing. She's got a hold up. What? Hold on. Sorry. Let's just what? Octopus.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say when I first read that for octopus.
Oh, okay.
I was like, no, I have to draw the line.
I'm also gonna look this up too, but I was concerned for a second. No, there's a special edition of Verity coming out at the end of the year, and it has a bonus chapter in it, and I just have to read the bonus chapter.
It says that I'm actually at the front, so it should be available soon.
You have to drop everything to read it.
Like, what does disturbed mean? Can you guys tell me without
it means it? Yes, it means that after you finish and after you read the ending, you you keep thinking about it. You keep thinking like how like you keep wondering like
think about the end of Inception. It's kind of like that.
I would never compare it to the end of the Inception, but like where it doesn't it kind of ends in a like did it or didn't it happen, like what's the truth kind of feeling, and you keep thinking
a cliffhanger?
Not a cliffhanger, no, but just like it fucks with your perception. Like, you've read a book, you have a very specific idea in your head, and then after the ending you're like, what?
You know how at the end of Inception
about it.
Everybody was like, you know how at the end of Inception, I don't know about everybody, at least for me, they were like, well, is he awake, is he not, like that. That's kind of, it's like is it this or is it that? People pick sides.
Okay.
So is there anything else related to Neon Gods that we wanted to talk about?
What did you guys think of Persephone as a character? I hated her sometimes. She was just like, sometimes she came across as very immature, and so it was hard for me to take her seriously sometimes, which led to like maybe that a part of the reason why I didn't like the sex scenes, because I just like I kept imagining this little girl who needs to grow up. So it's just like I didn't like her as a character, to be honest. Like I didn't mind Hades as much. Obviously we talked about the side characters. I really liked them. But for her, I think she was probably my least favorite character, and she was one of the main characters, you know.
I can agree with that I don't know, it felt like there was some infantilization in the story itself in regards to how they interacted with each other and the way they behaved and how they spoke to each other.
Yeah, I feel like she was written young. Well, actually, let me rephrase this. She was written young, and sometimes she did act young, and other times she didn't. I think that Hades was supposed to be younger, like early 20s, and he was written old. Because I feel like I remember there being a description of him being like the youngest Hades or in history or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, she just like, especially not towards the end, but in the beginning, she just seemed very like immature, and maybe it contribute. Maybe she did have a little bit of a character development where she wasn't as annoying towards the end, but yeah, she was my least favorite character. Which is sad because she was the main character. And the whole like, it's funny because I told you guys I wanted to read like mafia romance where, because I like that whole big bad macho guy being the protector of the innocent girl who got thrown into this world. That's not what I was thinking when I was reading this book, because he's like supposed to be this like big bad guy being protective over her who got thrown into this world. The universe didn't have to do me this way. I was looking for something better, but yeah, it was an entertaining read overall, but I don't know yet if I'll read the next book.
I don't know. I was just really digging it.
I have a question. Why did Zeus kill Hades' parents? Is it ever said? Because I don't remember. I'm thinking about that now.
I don't know. Now I'm not sure if it was ever said.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I mean, that's the reason why Hades hates Zeus, but why did Zeus hate Hades' parents so much, or the previous Hades? I don't quite remember that.
It sounded like he was just power hungry and like out of control. Zeus was. I don't know if they like specified a very specific reason, but overall it just seemed like he was very controlling.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was ever said.
Oh, Meg says, I think because he thought it would bring him more power and he could hide that faction.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I get it. It's Zeus, but I'm also like, I mean, I get that it's Zeus is powerful, but like he's the one who committed the murder, and yet Hades was the one who got to be, I mean, there was a treaty, whatever. Hades was the one who had to be confined to like the lower cities where his family, I guess, rules, and he could never come to the other side. And I feel like, is that really fair? Is that like, I feel like the treaty was probably written by Zeus and be like, okay, I killed his parents, let's punish him some more, by confining him and letting people think that he doesn't exist anymore. But yeah. And also like he's so powerful that it was so easy to kill him at the end. I'm just like, nothing makes sense to me.
I heard about this last week and I forgot. I went to the series to see like everything, because there's some like little short stories, but there's a prequel short story that follows Medusa, and it's free right now to read through like the end of next February. So I think I'm gonna try that and see what the deal is here.
Following Medusa. Sex with Medusa in my head is going to be really kinky. So you tell me when you read it how that is, and then I'll decide if I want to read it.
Here, let me read the synopsis. In the city of Olympus, people only speak about Medusa in whispers. She's Athena's knife hand, the one sent when Athena wants someone to disappear. No one asks Medusa what she wants, but she owes Athena her life, and if staining her hands with blood is the only way to repay the debt, it's a small price to pay. Until Athena sends her after Calypso, the mistress of the rich politician Odysseus. Calypso is beautiful and cunning, and she'll do anything to keep her life, including seducing her would-be assassin. What starts as a ploy to escape quickly spirals into genuine interest, but it doesn't matter that they've finally found something special together. Athena will have her blood, and this time not even crossing the river Styx will save them.
I totally get why, hate to love romances are hot and like falling in love with your abuser. Like I get how that happens and why people would think that's hot too. That is like just so not what I'm looking for right now, like in my life.
I don't think it's. Wait, hold on.
Isn't it Stockholm syndrome, right?
I don't think it's saying that she's falling in love with her abuser, though.
No, but she said she would seduce her.
Hold on.
Yeah, seduce her would-be murderer.
Yeah, that's what it said. I was generalizing.
Okay.
I was just talking about like other romances.
Here. I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, you read that and let me know. Because that just, as soon as I hear Medusa, I'm just like, oh, especially after reading this book, I'm like, I don't know.
Okay, I got it. I want to see how many pages it is. Oh, it's not very long. Yeah, I'm going to read it.
I'll be interested in hearing your thoughts.
I'm just trying to see how many pages it is. So it looks like it's 10 chapters. That's not too bad. But yes, I will read this and report back. Do we have anything else we want to talk about? Okay, so in that case, we can go into final thoughts. So, Desiree, would you like to start?
Final thoughts. Just that, I appreciate the retelling perspective. I'm not a no on reading one of her other books, though I don't expect too much. Like it just feels like it's not for me, and that's okay. And because I recognize that it's not for me, I'm not going to rate it. So those are my final thoughts.
Chloe, I don't know if you seen Meg's comment. She says you have to be part of Katie's Patreon to get the prequel.
Yes, and I was just looking at that. So the Stone Heart was free, but the one that's after Neon Gods is called Hades, and that's from Patreon. But here's what the synopsis says, and I might have to join her Patreon literally just to read this. It says a short story about Hades and Persephone from Neon Gods and how their story ties with the Wicked Villains series. Guys. Which makes sense because which makes sense because there's the next book in that series that I have to read is like a Hercules retelling. Guys.
I'm happy that you're happy, Chloe.
Yes. Okay. I didn't hate this book. I actually liked the story aspect for me. I know I kind of dumped on this book throughout this whole life, but I did enjoy the actual story line of it, of her, running to for her, being engaged to Zeus and running away because that's not what she wants. That totally makes sense to me. And her, finding herself in this position where she kind of has to team up with the enemy in order to get what she wants in the end. It totally makes sense to me. And I like that trope. What kind of goes downhill for me is the sex. I thought it was just very physical. There was no tension to it, and it's not. I'm not new to reading smutty. I don't really read that much anymore, but I'm not new to reading smut scenes. But it felt like too physical, and not much tension, and it wasn't hot in any way of the word for me personally. And I can see why people enjoyed it, and why people would think that the sex scene was hot for them. That's good. It's all about preference. But personally, I didn't think it was. And the characters were good enough. I really liked the side characters. Persephone got on my nerves sometimes, but she is young in the story, and she kind of just getting her bearings into the world. And she's spent her whole life listening to her mother, following what her mother told her to do, and now she's kind of finally getting her independence. And so overall, I think I am going to keep it my rating at 3, because the book was good enough that it wasn't bad. It was not deserving of a 2. It was definitely good enough to be a 3. Will I continue on with the series? It really depends. I guess I would have to see if I can get confirmation that her writing has improved with the author. If her writing has improved, and obviously, all writers improve the more that they write, the more that they publish. So if I can get confirmation that her writing has improved as in terms of writing of the more sexy scenes, then I definitely am considering. I am definitely interested in this monsters book, so maybe one day I will pick it up and see. I'm almost a little afraid of it, but it sounds absurd. So but yeah, overall my rating is 3, and yeah.
Overall, I gave this a 5-star. While there probably wasn't a good enough plot, I definitely understand the hype behind it on TikTok, and am very excited to continue on with this series, as well as look into some of her other books. I think I'm also going to look into that monster book. And I agree that I'm a little concerned about this, but we'll see where it goes. But I had a good time with this book, even though the audiobook was not great. So yeah. And I don't have a copy of the next book. For next month, I'm just going to pull it up because I can't remember the author off the top of my head anyway. So next month for May, we are reading We Are Satellites by Sarah Pinsker. There's the cover right there. And our live show is going to be on Sunday, May 29th at 6 p.m. on this channel. And then also for Pages and Pals, our next Pages and Pals will be on Saturday, May 21st at 8 p.m. That's going to be over on Kathleen's channel. And then in a week, hopefully, Desiree and I will be doing the quarterly romance book club. And we've been reading When You Get the Chance by Emma Lord. But keep an eye on our Twitter at Quarter Romance, because I'm not sure if I'm going to get that done in time. So we'll see. But that is everything for this book club discussion today of Neon Gods. Thank you so much for watching. And hopefully we will see you next month to read We Are Satellites. So we will see you guys then. Bye.